research shows that you can take digital footprints that we are all leaving behind while using digital products and services, such as your search queries, websites that you have visited, Facebook likes, tweets, emails, logs of your credit card, and use computer algorithms to translate those digital footprints into very accurate predictions of intimate traits such as personality, intelligence, political views, sexual orientation, and also future behavior such as what you're going to buy or whom you are likely to vote for. Well, in my research, I stressed both benefits and risks associated with those new findings, those new capabilities that algorithms seem to be possessing. Now, I'm personally an optimist. I think that humanity is benefiting tremendously from powerful algorithms being able to predict our behavior, reveal our traits, understand our preferences, diagnose psychological and psychiatric and other disease. But I also believe that in order to reap the benefits and avoid the risks that such technologies are bringing, and they're bringing risks as well, we basically have to remember and talk about those risks. I personally don't work with industry at all. I'm focusing on my academic research. But having said that, I don't really think that academics should abstain from collaborating with industry. Quite the opposite. I think that one of our duties as researchers is to go out there to the real world and try to make sure that companies and governments and other institutions are using technologies that we are studying here at the universities in a beneficial way, beneficial not only to the companies but also to the societies, or most of all to the societies, and also help the companies to avoid pitfalls and risks of the very technologies we are developing and studying here. Now, companies work under tremendous pressure of markets demanding them to bring profits. Also, they're pushing the boundaries. Take Facebook, for example. No one has ever built social network of this kind. So, of course they will make mistakes. Do they want to make mistakes? I don't think so. Do they want to hurt their users or invade their privacy? I don't think so as well. But will they make mistakes going forward? No question about it, because they are pushing the boundaries and doing things that no one ever has done before. And now, us academics taking time to talk to the industry folks can basically help them to avoid such issues and make the world a better place. Now, having said that, I don't work with industry. The algorithms that can reveal your intimate traits and predict your future behavior, they obviously can be used to try to influence you to do things. And now there's a whole spectrum of things that people can be influenced to do. One can use algorithms to try to encourage people, influence people to stop smoking, exercise more, eat more healthily, pay their taxes. And I think that most of the people would agree that influencing people in those ways is a great benefit to the society and those individuals. Now, you could also use the same algorithms and the same techniques to influence people not to go to vote. And again, most of the people would agree that this is an awful and very anti-democratic thing to do. Now there's a whole spectrum of things that people can be influenced to do or not to do in between, and it's really difficult to say where is the border between advantages and disadvantages or moral and immoral use of algorithms. There are plenty of benefits of algorithms being able to understand our psychological traits and predict our future behavior. You can help match people with jobs. If I know your psychological profile, if I know your psychometric profile, I can figure out which career you should take, which career would make you the happiest or the wealthiest, or will give you the most time to spend with your family, whatever your priorities in life are. The same techniques that can be used to predict your political views or sexual orientation and hence invade your privacy perhaps, can be used to predict whether you are likely to have a depression one day. And now being able to figure out whether you are at risk of depression can help the healthcare system to make sure that this awful disease doesn't happen to you. And now this is especially important when it comes to people who are currently excluded from the benefits of great healthcare and great care. If you're a wealthy person living in a big city, you have all the care most likely that you need. You can afford going to a psychologist, you can afford going to a psychiatrist, you probably have a very strong social network of friends, good role models, and so on. You have no trouble finding good jobs that will make you happy. You have no trouble finding support or finding a psychological diagnosis and treatment. Now, if you are underprivileged, if you were born in a smaller place, if you're not wealthy, if you're not educated, or if you live in a country that is not as affluent as United States or many of the other European countries, then you might be deprived of many of those benefits. Now, the time of an algorithm is way cheaper than the time of a psychologist. Also, you can apply the same algorithms to thousands of people or millions of people at the same time, whereas a human psychologist can work with one at a time. Now, this means that we can bring the benefits of modern career planning, modern recruitment and selection methods that are focused as much on the success and benefit of the company as on the well-being and fulfillment of the employee. We can bring those benefits to people who are traditionally and historically and economically deprived of it. And I think this is one of the great advantages of the new algorithms. And by the way, we're already seeing world adopting those new technologies, and we already see people tremendously benefiting from it. Positive examples of using algorithms to discover people's psychological traits include better job matching, better psychological diagnosis, better ability to maybe match people with each other for the purpose of working on a team, or maybe even starting a romantic relationship. Advising you what books or movies you may want to read. Making sure that our education is personalized. Instead of teaching all kids exactly the same, giving them exactly the same things to learn, you could keep the core curriculum, but then make sure that you build on the specific talents and interests of every individual child to let them excel and build on their strengths. I think that Facebook is in a really difficult situation because on one hand, they are building a platform that no one has ever built before. They also rely on their marketing profits to keep this platform running. And on the other hand, psychological targeting or just targeting in the context of such platforms creates issues that they may have not anticipated or the society may have not anticipated. So I certainly believe that both Facebook and its users and the society at large could benefit from having a discussion on what forms of targeting, targeting in political or just regular product advertising and PR are acceptable and desirable and what are not. And in fact, I'm sure that both Facebook and other similar platforms, online platforms, could not only benefit, but I think they're pretty much interested. They're interested in having this conversation as well. I think that we tend to focus on the negative, and this is natural for humans, and also probably it's a good thing that we like to focus on the negative, because this helps us to avoid pitfalls of such technologies and reap the benefits. But I believe that to a large extent, use of such algorithms in political communication and in marketing communication is in fact beneficial not only to individual customers or individual voters, but also to democracies and markets at the broader level. Now, if a politician can talk to you about things that are interesting and relevant to you personally, this makes you more engaged in a political process. And now I think that democracy can tremendously benefit from more citizens, more voters being engaged in the political process, being interested in what politicians are talking about. Now, if I can talk to you individually about things that are interesting to you, what happens is that also the importance of the message itself is going up. So instead of just spreading slogans, yes we can, or let's make America great again, to the largest possible amount of voters, politicians now can use algorithms and personalized political communication to talk with people one-on-one. Now, when we talk one-on-one, it doesn't make sense just to repeat the same slogan that I'm just blasting there out on the TV. I can now talk about issues that are of your concern or interesting to you, which basically makes the message, the program, the political program itself way more important. And now, again, I believe that talking about issues rather than spreading emotional slogans is great for the democracy. Now there's yet another advantage there, that if I can have a serious conversation as a politician, if I can have a serious conversation with individual voters about issues that matter to them, I don't need to spend so much money on spreading my slogans, because it might be that just one serious conversation with a potential voter can result in this voter being convinced to vote for me, or realizing that he or she is not interested in doing this, which means that the cost of the political communication is going down because it's way better targeted, so we can have higher quality but lower quantity of political communication. Now, this results in marketing budgets going down, which also decreases the thresholds, financial threshold that is necessary to enter political races, which is great for democracy again, because it means that the role of the industry, establishment, and big money in politics is going down. And I think this is great for the democracy. And this is not the end of the advantages, because yet another advantage is that if I can talk with individual voters about the issues that matter to them, as a politician, their issues start mattering to me as well. If I'm just reduced to a person that just says, yes, we can, or let's make America great again to every single voter out there in the country, and by the way, this is the logic of TV political communication, or political communication that is mediated by radio or by newspapers, then who cares about what this small group of voters somewhere in the corner of the country thinks, right? Because I couldn't, using old style tools, political tools, I can't talk to them anyway, right? And they cannot talk back to me. But now, if I as a politician, I have a tool which allows me to talk to those people directly, to this small group of voters that traditionally were excluded from the political process, suddenly what those guys think becomes important to me as a politician as well. Which means that this democratization of communication, political communication, this personalization, I should say, of political communication makes the interests and thoughts and goals of minorities way more important in the political process, which again, I believe is great for the democracy. So yes, you can use personalized political communication to try to manipulate people, and we know that politicians will try doing that as they were trying to manipulate people before social media. But there are also tremendous advantages. And let me here answer the question that maybe is not there, but let me just go on and answer it, which is, so what about politicians trying to manipulate people? Because one of the phenomena that happens if I can talk with you directly and with other, if I can personalize my message and talk with people directly using separate messages, it also allows me to maybe, lie to some people in one way, maybe lie to some other people in another way, or maybe just tell a group of people I will increase the taxes and the other group of people that I will decrease the taxes. So basically spread some inconsistent pieces of information. Now, this is certainly a possibility. And well, politicians were doing it for the longest time. But now the same digital environment that enables politicians and marketers to personalize their communication, it also allows us, citizens, to communicate with each other directly, which means that we as a society got really good at making sure that we can validate what politicians are saying, right? If we have this conversation one-on-one with a politician, we can immediately share the details of this conversation with the entire world, which basically means that it became much more difficult for politicians to spread fake information or manipulate people. One of the promises of behavioral marketing is that a company that does the marketing will never share with the marketers detailed information of the people who are being targeted. But there's one problem with that, which is that it's in fact impossible not to share this information. Because if I, as a marketing company, choose to target my advert only at females, or maybe only at liberal people, or maybe only at gay people, anyone who later clicks on the link that I was targeting at them and comes to my website or my online store or comes to my event in the offline world, any person that basically reacts to an advert that is specifically targeted at a given group must be a member of this group, which basically means that in the context of behavioral marketing, there is no way of actually protecting the privacy of people who are being targeted. And I think that the experiment that has been conducted here is a great example illustrating that. Well, I think the intuitive response to this question is yes, of course. But what's important also is that very often intuition or intuitive responses are not the correct responses. Do we really want a private company deciding what use of advertising is okay and which use of advertising is not okay? Perhaps we should have rules as society, legal rules, cultural norms that regulate what is okay and what is not, and try to enforce those rules or spread or promote those rules, not only within Facebook, but within marketing in general. Not only online marketing, but offline marketing as well. Or legal norms as well. So, because one problem that is there is that if you want Facebook to decide what kind of marketing is okay and what kind of marketing is not, you're coming really close to censorship. Do you really want a private company to be able to decide what should be marketed out there and what shouldn't? Imagine, as long as obviously the rules that company enforces, you agree with them personally, you probably will be happy, right? But think about a situation in which there's a large part of the society that believes that, vaccines cause autism, and they would exert pressure on Facebook to make sure that no health-related campaigns promoting vaccination of children are being shown on Facebook. Do we really want an outcome in which individual groups in the population, in the society, can exert pressure on Facebook and make them censor some types of communication, whether it's advertising communication or general communication? I think that those are difficult questions that should not be left. We should not ask companies to answer. We should probably ask our democratic institutions to answer them instead. where there's little we can do to protect ourselves from being targeted. Some people argue, hey, maybe we can somehow invalidate our data. But this is silly because the same mechanism that is used to target you with an advert is also used to improve and enhance your experience, like match you with the interesting content or suggest an interesting press article that you may want to read. So there's no going back. There's no going back from algorithms being able to understand us because there's so much benefit for us in it. Some other people would say, hey, we should abandon Facebook. But, well, let's face it. First of all, Facebook is really a very it's not the most intrusive of the digital environments. Let's compare it with web search environment, where we reveal much more, and people, I feel, are also less aware that whatever they search on Google or other platforms is also being used in targeting, advertising, and building their profile. And this data is also sold to other companies. We have no choice when it comes to credit cards. Those are tremendous tools that we can use to simplify our financial, our purchasing behaviors, and also they make our lives safer because we don't have to carry cash around. But on the other hand, of course, there is a cost to our privacy that we have to pay. So there's no going back. We cannot really suddenly go back in time and shut down the internet and shut down the modern financial mechanism and somehow get rid of the CCTV cameras in our smartphones. There's absolutely not going back. And also it would be pretty silly. I think that what people need to realize that while sharing data on an individual level might make you feel uneasy, might lead to some intrusions of privacy, also might put you in a disadvantageous position, like let's say healthcare provider or insurance company being able to reveal your health records or kind of access your health records might reject your application for insurance coverage, right? So there's definitely costs on the individual level that we are paying or potentially could pay for sharing data. But on the other hand, we are also making our society, science, technology much better by sharing the data. If I somehow found a way of using Google Maps but not sharing my own location, I'm just free riding on the backs of all those other people that did not have time, skills, or didn't care about sharing their location. If everyone managed to withdraw the information about their location from Google Maps, the whole system collapses. The same about healthcare. On the individual level, I feel uneasy about sharing my health data with companies and governments and academic institutions. It may lead to intrusions of my privacy, it makes me feel uneasy, it may lead to negative outcomes like being rejected from insurance coverage. But on the other hand, me and everyone else sharing their health records with industry, academia, and governments leads already to development of way better diagnostic tools, therapies, understanding global trends, being able to detect threats to the public health. So basically, by sharing the data, I'm improving the well-being and longevity of other people. So now I believe that you could look at sharing data in the same way as you look at taxes. Look, no one is, enthusiastically paying their taxes, yet everyone or most of the people understand that paying the taxes might be not the most pleasant thing you did it last year, but it also helps us to keep the society running. And it's very much the same with the sharing your data. I think that given that we are leaving increasing amount of digital footprints while using digital products and services, and algorithms are getting better at turning those digital footprints into accurate predictions of our intimate traits and future behavior, we are very quickly heading towards post-privacy era. And now we talk a lot in the society about how we can try to develop new technologies that will help us to protect our privacy, or maybe enact some legislation that will help us to protect our privacy. But I think that, we can win some battles, but we lost the war. Why? Because data is very difficult to regulate. It can flow across borders very easily. It can be encrypted. It can be stolen without leaving a mark. And even if you catch someone stealing your data, how do you ascertain that they actually returned your data? Now, even organizations that have huge budgets and are focused on protecting their data, like NSA, for instance, they lose their data, lose control over their data. So how can you expect that individuals that do not have the skills and do not have the means will suddenly be able to fully control their data in the future? Now, let's say that even somehow magically we were all given full control over our digital footprints. Now, even in such scenario, most of us will want to share some data with the others. I want my blog posts to be public. I want my tweets to be public. I want this conversation to be public. I don't want to cover my face when I'm walking the streets or having to distort my voice. Now, this means that there's already enough information out there for a good algorithm to very accurately predict my intimate traits and my future behavior, which basically means that going forward, there's no way we can maintain our privacy. And now, this means that conversation about the laws and technologies that are aimed at protecting our privacy can be a distraction, can create an illusion that maybe going forward we actually will be able to maintain our privacy. And now I believe this is totally not possible, which means that the sooner we accept the fact that privacy is not going to be there, and the sooner we start talking about how to make sure that the post-privacy society is still a safe, habitable, and nice place to live, the better for all of us.
There has never been a more important time to support independent media and investigative journalism. So if you like the work we do, then subscribe to our channel, send us tips, and most importantly, if you can, pledge to our Patreon and help keep us going and keep us uncovering these stories. Cheers.